What's going on, guys? Dr. David here, back with Dr. JT and Dr. Alexa, here to talk to you about some stretching exercises to do for your low back pain. Now, we're going to do two different stretching progressions, one for a flexion bias and one for an extension bias. Now, when I say bias in those different directions, what I mean is that with your low back pain, it feels better to either move forward, bending forward, or it feels a little bit better moving backward. So bending forward, if that feels better, that would be considered a flexion bias. And if it feels better bending backwards, that would be an extension bias. So we're going to start with the flexion bias stretches first with Dr. Alexa. So Alexa, if you want to hop on the table here. Okay, so first we're going to start with the stretch for a person with a flexion bias, where it feels a little bit better when you're bending forward. So the first part of this stretch, the first element of the progression, is what we call a single knee to chest. So all I'm going to have Alexa do is I'm going to have her take one of her knees and bring it into her chest. And all this is going to do is very lightly pull her low back into a little bit of that flexion position that feels a little bit better. So you can hold this position for 30 seconds to a minute and just let that low back stretch out a little bit. Now with the single leg version, I would say it's a little bit easier than the double leg version, which we're going to progress into next. So Alexa, if you want to move into this one next, we're going to grab both knees this time. And now with both knees moving together, you get a bit more of an aggressive stretch on that low back. So I would start with the single leg version and I would move into the double leg version. Again, holding this double leg version for 30 seconds to a minute and just let that low back stretch out. Perfect, Alexa. So now we're going to talk about the stretch for a person with an extension bias. So just as a reminder, extension bias meaning it feels a little bit better on that low back pain when we're leaning backwards like this, okay? So I'm going to take Dr. JT through this progression here. So we're going to start with our body in this position on our bellies. Now, the first element of this progression is what we call a prone press up. So the first part of this, I'm going to have Dr. JT pop up onto those elbows. And again, we can just hold on to this position and just let this low back stretch out. You might even feel some stretching on this front side of the body as well. And you're just going to hold this for about 30 to 60 seconds again. Hang out there, relax, let it kind of ease up a little bit, okay? Now, the next part of the progression is going to be bringing our arms and our body up a little bit higher. So all it's going to do is create more of that arch in the back. So Dr. JT, you can pop up on those hands. Exactly. So now you can see it's a much more aggressive movement for the low back. And again, you want to hold this position for about 30 seconds to a minute and just let that whole area stretch out. So you could progress from that first one on your elbows, moving higher up onto the hands, holding both for 30 seconds to a minute, and just let that low back stretch out into that position that feels comfortable. Perfect, JT. Thank you.